Hello everyone, you're listening to the Earful Tower podcast. My name is Oliver G. This is an episode specifically about the French language with Camille from French Today. Now, French Today is the sponsor of this show. Once a month I do an episode with Camille, and she came into the studio to talk about, well, have you ever spoken French with someone and asked them to correct you, knowing that you might be making mistakes? Well, it turns out there's a whole minefield of things that are happening, can happen, or should happen, or won't happen when you do that. And Camille walks us through some of these tricky things and what you should do. But I'll leave it to her. She's the expert. Remember, if you want to learn French using their audiobooks, go to frenchtoday.com/earful11. You'll get a further 10% discount, and that can add up quite a lot. As we speak, there's a discount on, so I think you get 30%. So go and check that out, frenchtoday.com/earful11. Now remember to hang around at the end of this episode, because where I'd usually talk about French Today, I'm going to read out 3 emails that were particularly funny this week, including my doppelganger who's walking around in Paris. More on that in a second. Here's Camille from French Today.
And Camille is in the studio again. Welcome.
Welcome to me.
Welcome to you. It's like, when I was a kid and people said happy birthday to me on my birthday, I would always say happy birthday back. It was just a natural thing.
So polite. I don't know why I said that.
You are very polite. But how have you been?
I've been okay, actually. My voice is kind of getting better,
Yeah.
Time, just give it time.
It's sounding good.
Thank you.
Sounding good. We won't do anything too strenuous. I won't make you teach me French football chants or anything like that. At least not today.
Yeah.
But why don't we jump straight into the topic of the day?
Okay.
And it's one that we could probably talk about forever.
Yeah.
Getting French people to correct you. In fact, I think you and I had this conversation about 2 years ago.
We might, because a lot of people have experienced that, and it's a conversation I have with most of my students, and it's, the French tend to correct people
Sure.
when they speak.
Yeah.
And it's like they can't help themselves. And a lot of students, a lot of foreigners, take it extremely personally, because it's not like it could be 2 things, okay? Either it's your fault, you started. Either,
likely.
You said to your friend, oh, and please, when I make a mistake, correct me.
Yeah.
Ooh, wrong idea.
Yeah, you hate that. I think I said that to you.
You may.
2 years ago, I said, you can correct me whenever you want.
And I said, no
You slapped
way,
me.
Jose. Yes. No. So let me explain why. It's detrimental on both ends, meaning that to speak a language, to learn a language, you need to learn the language, the grammar, the pronunciation, all that. But there's another part which is equally important. You need to develop your confidence in the language. If you don't have that, you're going to have what a lot of the listeners who have spoken French have experienced, which is they freeze. You're going to be so scared that
True.
when you want to speak, that's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking another language is an extremely humbling experience. You cannot represent yourself as you would in your own language.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot show at first and for a long time your wit or your sense of humor. The cultural references are not the same. And so people don't get you the same way as they would in your language. And especially if you are, educated, if you rely on your language like you, Oliver, like you have a good mastery of the English language.
I'm a language guy, yeah, you're right.
And so learning French and speaking in French is you really showing your vulnerability.
Yeah, that's a tough word.
Yeah. And so it's the same for me, okay? I'm okay in French. I mean, but here I'm speaking and I know I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, and I know my English accent is not perfect and so on, and it's humbling to do it. But everybody does it.
I think you make a lot fewer mistakes in English than you think you do.
But thank you. I'll take the compliment, but you should see what's happening in my head right now. It's a war
It's like
zone.
an MC Escher painting.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't stop because
Yeah.
we're recording.
Yeah.
So I cannot freeze.
Yeah.
I can't freeze, and I cannot stop to correct. And I cannot, just say, just be not happy.
I put the pressure on you. Exactly. These episodes are a little behind the scenes for everyone at home. Is I always say that to the guest, Camille or whoever, that we treat it like it's live.
Yeah.
Even though we can edit it later, it's always a live conversation. Yeah.
So, and it's a therapy, session for me.
It's a two-way. Yeah.
It is, because I get to, be really vulnerable, and it's good. It teaches you a lot, and it makes me understand you, understand my audience, understand my students who study with my method much better. And so I can write a better method because I am in your shoes. I know what you are going through. So I do, but most people don't. Unless you are a teacher, most people, don't know what it is to learn a foreign language. They don't know what they should correct and what they should let go of.
Yeah.
And I've heard so many students who got picked at, there's no other words, by their friends, because they mispronounce one little word. And, that's okay. Like if somebody is advanced and they can't pronounce the word vin, for example, which is wine, which is quite handy if you are one of my friends. You want to, and vin is a nasal sound. And let's say that you can't say that. It's okay to correct the person one time, maybe two times. But after, unless you're a teacher, you drop it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I've found people who got nagged over and over and over by their friends who corrected everything, every little pronunciation mistake, every little grammar mistake. So that's number one. Number two, on the other side. Now I'm on your friend's side, okay? You ask them to correct you. So maybe they don't want to at all. I think they're here to have a good time with you. They want to speak with you in French or in English or whatever. They're not here to be in teacher mode, okay? But also, if they do correct you, it's very likely that your next move is going to be why.
Yeah, true. It's a conversation killer, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's not only a conversation killer, but it means that the person is going to have to explain to you the grammar rule.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets tricky. Unless you're a teacher, you don't necessarily know the French grammar.
Yeah.
You know how to apply it, but you don't know the rules and so on. So the person is going to have to, on the spot, try to remember a rule that they learned, when they were 9 years old. And so if they're French, it's very likely that they're not going to say, je ne sais pas.
Yeah.
Okay? So they're going to invent. And they're going to tell you the biggest crap, possible. Is that okay? Can I say
you
crap?
Can say,
yeah. Okay.
My mum won't like it, though.
Oh, okay. I went through 4 different words in my head before I selected one that I thought was okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right.
Okay, so you're going to have incredible grammatical explanations that are not true, that may be close to the truth, but, and it's embarrassing for your friends.
Yeah, because they're not your teacher.
They're not your teacher.
This never occurred to me before. Now I'm feeling guilty for all the people I've told to correct me, because I definitely have. I mean, I have the same thing. Put French aside for a second. My wife is Swedish. Mm-hmm. Her first language is Swedish. My first language is English. We don't really ever correct each other if speaking each other's language because, boring.
Yeah, and you want to create a loving, environment, especially with lovely Lina,
Yeah, well, of course, yeah.
And, it's not fun. You should be free to just speak whatever you want. And, at home, I speak Franglish. Like Oliver, my husband, Olivier.
You thought you were married to me again. I think you've done that before on the show. I think that's a Freudian.
I call him Oliver when I speak English.
So really? Do you?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's kind of, believe me, Oliver. It's hard enough for me to put my mind in an English mode. If on top of that I have to use Olivier, a French word, in the middle of that. It's really hard.
Does he call you Camilla?
He never has, but my daughter, believe it or not, when she was 4 years old, introduced me to her English friends. And no, she was much, much younger. It was much cuter. She was actually just, 3, like barely speaking.
Right.
And in this teeny little school in Medford. And she turned and she said, "Oh, and guys, here is my mother, Camille." And I had no idea she knew how to say my name in English. That was the first time I heard it. You know,
Wow.
this little, tiny little girl. This is my mother, Camille.
Wow, that's
you know.
amazing. She's totally bilingual, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. Yeah, that's cool.
Was she
Yeah.
like 14 now?
She's turning 15th next month.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
yeah.
I'm always jealous of perfectly bilingual kids.
Maybe in
Sorry,
your
children.
future.
Children.
Maybe in your future. Who
Yes.
knows? You know.
Well, yeah, who knows? Who knows? Now, where were we? Oh, yeah. You corrected me, but half an hour ago when I was speaking French.
Yeah, because
What
I'm
do you
your
have
teacher.
to say?
I'm your teacher.
But I think that was really nice the way you did it because it didn't ruin the conversation. I was trying to say never again in French, just in the middle of, the context was irrelevant really. I was trying to say never again. I just translated it literally. And I said jamais encore. And you were like, plus jamais.
Yes. And I said it, you can try. And some people love to be corrected, especially like if they are advanced speaker and, then you'll only have to correct this little tiny bit and so on. But for a beginner, there's going to be mistakes and it is okay. Please remember that it is okay. It's part of learning a language. When you speak a language, it's part of training. You're not perfect. You're not an athlete. You cannot run a marathon right there, okay? You have to train. And you're going to fall, you're going to make mistakes, and everybody's fine with that. And if you're talking to a prick, who cannot understand that, and who is like so, perfect, French has to be perfect like that,
Yeah.
and so on, well, change friends.
well, there's a little difference as well. If you're training for a marathon and you fall over, it's kind of a sad thing. But if you stumble while learning French, it can be kind of charming.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The French love an English accent.
Yeah.
And they love a little mistake. And when you said jamais plus...
I said jamais encore.
Jamais encore. It's super cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, say it again to me.
I said jamais encore.
Oh, it's so cute.
So what did I say? Well, that's the equivalent of like saying not never, maybe. It doesn't make sense.
It does not. It's not two words that go together
No,
in French,
no.
but it is understandable because you have jamais
Sure.
and encore. I mean, come on, who could not understand that in French? So it's
It's funny because I was talking to you and David, another French guy. He didn't correct me.
No.
And he said, in fact, perfect topic for today's topic is you said that you're really calm and you sort of relax about correcting people. You'd rather the conversation flow. He said, I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
What do you say? I'll correct everything.
He corrects everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he didn't right now. But you know what? I feel entitled because I am your teacher.
That's true. That's
Aren't
true.
I?
You can, yeah, you are. And you can say, what level is my French, do you think? Where would you put me?
It's pretty high.
You think?
It's pretty high.
Yeah, you don't have to just say that because we're recording. What is it,
No,
like
but
that
like
high?
what? Yeah, it's that high. Yeah, and all our listeners are so happy.
No one knows how high I put my hand up there. But it's all right. I mean, because often I think people want context when we're doing these. My French is all right enough to get by, I'd say.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
it depends which, again, what level? That's a huge question. Like, what do you want me to test? Your written French, your spoken French?
Definitely
your
not.
Pronunciation,
Everyone at home, Camille wants to do a live video with me in French, and I keep refusing.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Won't you like that? Please email Oliver and
Email
tell,
Camille.
and tell him he has to do a live, lesson. Like when he speaks French,
Yeah.
gently correct him.
I
And
think
you
we
will
should do
learn
it.
too.
We'll do it for Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do a Christmas
For
episode.
Christmas. Yeah.
It'll be my Christmas gift to you.
Okay, I want eggnog.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we can fix that too. Okay, so now back to this idea. I've got a friend, Fabien. He's come up on the show a lot. He's actually from the same part of France as you, Brittany.
Okay, awesome.
Breton pride.
Have I met his parents?
Yeah, you have.
Fabien, je connais tes parents.
Don't worry, there's no way he listens to this show. But I said to him in the early days, he's one of my closest French friends. I said to him, correct me. You can correct me. Whenever you want. 5 years, he's never corrected me.
Yeah, good job.
You think?
Good job. Yeah. I promise you, I mean, it starts with a good idea and it might work for some people. I mean, as always, when you say, don't do something, I always receive a couple of emails saying, but it works for me, for me. Yes. Okay. You're lucky. Great.
It's like there's people who say, my grandfather smoked a cigarette every day and he lived to be 100. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a friend who is a born teacher.
Yeah.
wonderful. You are a friend who is a French teacher. Oh, don't ask them. I mean, please, they don't want to be working on their leisure time. Like, that was my problem back in Boston, where some of my friends like, yeah, let's speak French. I said, oh, heck no. I love my job. I absolutely love my job. But I don't necessarily want to spend all my time doing that, my free time, okay? And with your friends, it's going to be the same thing. It's really hard for a person who is not accustomed to simplify the way they speak to do it. And I was thinking, I think we got, somewhere else, but I was telling you about my family, and I was saying that at home, I speak Franglish. I jump from French to English when I find an expression that's more relevant in English as we're speaking French. Poof, I will throw it in there.
That's cool.
Because both Olivier and Leila totally follow.
Yeah.
And so let's say that we're watching a movie in English and have a side conversation, it will be in English. If it's in French, so on. But I am awful at keeping straight in one language. I would just throw whatever. And Olivier hates it. And he's always like, come on, Camille, stick to the language, do the effort. And I'm like, I'm tired, it's tiring. It's really a process in your head.
Yeah.
So, put yourself in the shoes of your friend who is going to have to work and really do their best to simplify their sentences if, and that's a big if, they are able to do it. And then if they are not able to do it, you're going to feel like crap because you've asked them to correct you. So poof, 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 you're going to get corrected all the time.
Yeah.
Your self-confidence, your emerging confidence in speaking the language, crushed, quack, no coming back.
Dead.
And I've heard this story so many times. Yeah, it's your decision. You're in charge. But my advice is strongly do not ask your friends who are French to correct your French.
I think there's a lot to be said for a flowing conversation. Don't you think?
Yeah.
It's more important than a correct conversation.
Oh, definitely. And who cares if you make mistake? I mean, again, depending why you're learning French, if you want to learn French to pass exam, especially, those terrible, I said it, this terrible general exam like DELF and DALF that test a French that's made for the French.
Yeah.
And a French that's made for the French intellectual on top of that. Not at all. The French that the person who's learning French to have fun, to go to France, to speak and so on. You don't need those test level. You don't need to learn what they want you to learn in those tests. It's not, think about why you're learning French, okay? And the French person you're talking to, they're not going to be able to put all that aside. It's asking a lot to ask them to put themselves in your shoe and understand exactly what they should correct, what they should let go of, and so on.
Yeah, you're just asking. It's like people who go to a party and they meet someone and that person says, "I'm a dentist," and you go, "Oh, can you just look at this?" That's what you're doing to your friends, everybody, right? It must be the same thing for you.
So, if you want to learn French, what should you do?
Well, of course, that brings us to today's real topic. But in all seriousness, your audiobooks, what I like about them is I have a friend abroad who is learning French at university, or they've got a different program to what you do, and they were asking me something really crazy. Can you? How often do you use the subjunctive or something? And I said, hang on a second. Are you honestly learning that already? You literally can't even order a beer. And they couldn't. They were learning. It didn't make any sense to me. And I said, you have to rewind a bit because you can't talk to anyone. And what I was going to say is that's what I like about your books is they're super relevant, your audio books. Because I've done them. And they start off with very specific things that people use. Yeah,
it's all about, teaching. Like I totally rethought the curriculum, pretty much what people should learn first, and taking into priority what people absolutely need to know to communicate. And then I gently entice you and give you the tools to go out there and start communicating. And then as you communicate, your language knowledge will develop. And again, I say, as importantly, your confidence in yourself will develop. And then you'll be able to build on that. But if you have the skills, the language skills, but not the confidence, you won't be able to speak. Okay? And if you have the confidence, because it's just the way you are, but you don't have the language skills, nobody will want to speak to you because it's going to be too difficult to handle a conversation with you. Okay? And if you want to speak French with someone, my advice would be, I know it's expensive, but, try to find a tutor or try to find maybe an exchange. There are lots of sites right now who specialize in putting students together and, you do half an hour in French, half an hour in English.
Yeah.
Find tutors. The prices have really gone down, so be careful. Go on French Tutor. I have lots of advice about that. Don't waste your money or time, even if it's cheap, with somebody who cannot teach. That's another story. But it's worth it, okay? As everything, free will give you...
You get what you pay for.
Exactly, thank you,
I think that winds things up pretty nicely. If anyone wants to email you to ask you to correct them on their French, is that an email they should never send?
How do I answer that? I have 70,000 people who follow me on Facebook, Oliver.
Oh my goodness.
So I do get about 200 emails a day.
Is that true?
Yes,
Oh my
people
goodness.
asking.
Wow.
And I do my best to answer everybody because it's in my heart.
That's going to ruin your mind.
It takes not so much my mind because thank goodness on my blog I have an answer for everything, so I just have to.
You can just link to
most
stuff.
of them, I just give them the link, or even says, kindly, but search the blog.
Whoa.
Or even at this point, since you're asking me how to say bonjour in French, just Google Translate, it does take a big amount of my time, but that's okay.
That's frightening. That is. I get a lot fewer than that, and I think I get a lot. Do you get? I get emails. My least favorite kind of emails are the ones that just say, they don't even say hello. They just write, good restaurants near the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, that happens to me. And I actually got so annoyed with that I've written a pre-answer that I just put in saying, hello, my name, bonjour, je m'appelle Camille, and I'm not a robot.
Right.
And, start whatever you want, what your question was, start with politeness.
Yeah.
Bonjour, merci. Au revoir. Yeah. That's what I send. And, so usually the people get back to me and say, I'm so sorry. I was typing on my phone. I didn't mean it. And I understand. But politeness. First thing, if you are listening and wondering what you should start with, politeness.
That's true. And I think we did an episode on that right from the beginning. Don't forget your bonjours. But now it's time for the au revoirs and the mercis. So thank you for being on the show as usual, Camille.
Merci, Oliver.
I hope to see you in Paris again soon.
Absolutely. With pleasure.
Well, there you have it. That was Camille from French Today, her 11th appearance this year on the show. You can find them all in a blog post if you want to binge on French lessons. But don't forget, once again, frenchtoday.com/earful11. That will get you a further 10% discount on the audiobooks. Go and check it out. Now, as promised, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the Gmail that I've been getting through. Some of it was quite funny, but first, I'm going to point you out to a few things you might have missed if you haven't been cruising around the other social media channels that I've got. One of them was I did a mammoth walk across Paris about a week ago. Where I was with Jay Swanson, the YouTuber, and we walked from the southernmost point of the city across the peripheric, the big ring road, and we walked all the way to the Saint-Ouen markets, which are across the ring road on the north. It was a 13-kilometer walk, which is, I think it's about 7 miles. It took us about 3 hours, and we live streamed the whole thing. So if you like slow TV, and I say slow TV, that's what they do in Scandinavia. They stick a camera to the front of a train, and it's like a 14-hour TV show. It was kind of like that, but we were talking and pointing things out. But it's over on the YouTube channels, and it was really popular. At one point, there were 500 people watching my video at the end. So it showed me that people like it. I'll do it again. The video itself on my channel has about 8,000 hits. There's links with all the information. Go and check that out too. The other thing that I think you should check out is the bonus episode. I've been doing the occasional bonus episode for Patreon supporters. On social media, a few of you guys might have seen on Instagram and Facebook, I did a post mentioning my bucket list in Paris, how I've been working through it. And lo and behold, I didn't think people would care so much, but I was getting all these emails saying, tell us more about your bucket list. So I got, well, long story short, I've got 12 or 13 friends together. We've all done bucket lists, and we're all trying to complete it by the end of the year. So I got 2 people, my wife Lena and a friend Shelley, into the studio. We did a bonus episode, and we talked about the things we want to do in Paris before it's too late for whatever reason. So there's a little bonus episode for you Patreon supporters, just $5 a month. That's not even a coffee in Paris. Go and sign up right now, patreon.com/The Earful Tower. And the last thing is I announced the book club for December is going to be The Seine, The River That Made a City by Elaine Scialino. Believe it or not, she was the second ever guest on the Eiffel Tower podcast 2 years ago. We're going to be recording again in late December. Get that book, join the Facebook club. We're going to be talking about it all December. Now, for a bit of Gmail, I'm going to start with a fun one. I got an Instagram message in from Becky Loves Paris. She says, this is out of nowhere. She goes, "Hello, Oliver. You have a twin. I was walking around Paris today and saw a guy sitting in the window of the Peloton Cafe who looked just like you." Now, just to interrupt for a second, this is likely. I go to the Peloton Cafe fairly often, so I'm thinking maybe this could have been me. She goes, "A guy sitting in the window of the Peloton who looked just like you, so I went in to say hi, but it wasn't you. He was a very nice English guy who lives in Brussels, but he could be your twin. I was a little embarrassed, but the guy was so nice, I should have taken his pic so you could see. And you could see that I'm not crazy." Well, that's kind of fun. If you're listening, Becky Loves Paris, and if you're listening, English guy in Brussels, especially you, English guy in Brussels, get in touch. I need to see what you look like. And Becky, thanks for daring to go up to someone who you weren't entirely sure was me by the sounds of it. That was pretty fun. Becky Loves Paris, that was a good one. The next one is a rare double up email. So I think about 2 weeks ago I read out an email from Alan Warnock, who lived in Melbourne, Florida, and I read out the email. It was a fun email, and then I got another email from him, and he says, and I think he's going to like this based on this email that I'm reading it again. He says, "Thanks for reading my Gmail on this podcast. You've raised my stature with my 3 daughters far more than any single event in my history. And in response to your question, the pronunciation of Melbourne, Florida, is either Melbourne or Melbourne, even though I'd say locals gravitate towards the latter. Melbourne. Did you see I said Melbourne at the start? You can reserve Melbourne exclusively for Australian use, mate." I see what you did there, Alan, and I am so happy to have raised your stature among your 3 daughters higher than anything in your history. So I'll do it again. Alan Warnock, Patreon supporter of the Eiffel Tower, friend of the show now, and by the sounds of it, a very lovely guy. You 3 daughters, you should have him in high stature. He sounds like an excellent man. Now, on with one more email before we round things up. It's from Heidi Boyd. She says, "Hello, Oliver." She's also a Patreon supporter. She says, "Thank you for creating such incredible content every week. My husband Michael and I have a love of Paris, and you keep us very engaged and connected. I listen to you when I'm getting ready for work or relaxing at home in Reston, Virginia, a suburb of Washington, D.C. Michael listens while at work, and we discuss the content over dinner once both of us have listened. Oh, I hope that means you'll both get home tonight, have a big smile on your face, knowing that you've both been mentioned in the episode." So Michael and I, I'm reading again here, Michael and I just returned from 2 weeks in Paris. We were lucky enough to be there for the event at the Australian Ambassador's residence. Yes, I remember you too. What luck the event was scheduled the night before we left. It was an incredible experience that over-delivered all of our expectations. We met so many wonderful people, including our other patron guests, your lovely team and friends of the show. We were walking on air as we left the event and closed another magical evening in Paris. It was so lovely to see you two there. Now the email continues at great length, to which I don't have the time to read, but in summary, there's a really lovely story that Heidi said about meeting Penelope in the bookshop, the Red Wheelbarrow bookshop, and essentially the story just confirms that she's a lovely woman. She's a past guest on the show, so I was glad to read that. And then Heidi and Michael, they ended the email to say They went to a few other spots highlighted from the podcast and the lovely guidebook. We had a wonderful trip. Look forward to returning as usual. I look forward to seeing you next time. It was wonderful to meet you both and wonderful to meet all you other Patreon supporters who managed to be in Paris at the same time as the embassy event. Here's to the next big event like that, and to all the supporters who make it possible. That will do for this week. I'm going to round it up. Oh, I'll give you one more bonus thing. This week I was in the offices of the mayor of the 4th arrondissement, and we had a great chat about Notre Dame and where it's at, and especially interesting, I think you guys are going to love it, where he was when it was burning down. I'm not going to give anything away, but it was pretty touching stuff, and he was in pretty exclusive company at such a horrific moment. So I'm going to leave that for next week. As for me, you've been listening to The Earful Tower. That was Camille from French Today. FrenchToday.com/earful11. Go and get it right now. Patreon.com/The Earful Tower. Thanks for listening this week. I'll be back again next week. Au revoir.